February 1965. Near Morrison, Colorado, a brewery heir left home for work, stopped at his ranch gate, and vanished beside his truck. Blood marked the roadside. A hat lay in the dirt. The ransom demand came later. By then, he was already dead.
I started with the victim, Adolph Coors III, 44 years old, chairman of the Adolph Coors Company. Rich, known, routine-driven. He lived on a ranch southwest of Denver and drove himself to work. Same road, same hour.
Same cold morning light. The family carried weight in Colorado. Beer money built more than a business. It built a name that opened doors and drew eyes. In 1965, the Coors fortune sat in public view, and public wealth had a way of inviting private plans. His wife was Mary. Their children were home that morning. Nothing in the house showed panic before he left. No warning call, no sign he expected trouble. He stepped into the day as if it belonged to him. And for years it had. He had done time before, carried aliases, and drifted through jobs and states. Investigators later said he had studied the family carefully. The country already knew ransom crime. The Lindbergh shadow still hung around any wealthy child or public name. By the mid-60s, highways were faster, state lines easier, and a determined man could disappear into motel rooms, used cars, and cash transactions. Colorado itself helped the crime. Open roads, foothills, mining cuts, and empty ground where a man could vanish without witnesses. Between Denver and the high country, winter air carried sound strangely. Then there was class. A prominent executive driving himself through a private routine looked secure. That kind of security could be thin. No escort car, no rotating routes, no bodyguard in the passenger seat, just habit, a gate chain, and a few exposed minutes. On the morning of February 9, Coors left the ranch and stopped at a gate near Turkey Creek Bridge. The truck was later found there. His briefcase remained. The engine was off. Nearby, investigators saw blood, a hat, and drag marks in the hard ground. A beer bottle lay close to the scene, so did a length of electrical wire, and signs of a violent struggle. One theory held that the killer forced Coors to stop by staging car trouble. Another said he approached on foot and struck fast. The blood on the roadside mattered. So did a black leather glove, a shotgun shell, and tire impressions around the gate area. The evidence suggested resistance. Coors was a big man. He had fought. That detail sat in every report like grit in the teeth. Then came the letter. Typed. Ransom demand set at $500,000. Instructions were careful.
Almost mechanical.
The writer warned against police involvement. The family still contacted authorities. Men from the FBI and local agencies moved in under a blanket of secrecy. Telephone calls followed. The voice on the line stayed controlled. The family was told Coors was alive. That claim never held up. Investigators later concluded he had likely been killed during or soon after the abduction, before the ransom plan fully unfolded. Agents chased timelines through phone booths, maps, and witness statements. They traced the ransom communications and studied the typewriter style. They also learned of a suspicious man asking questions about the Coors family before the kidnapping. That trail pointed toward Corbett. Corbett had selected Coors as a target, prepared the roadside trap, and attempted a kidnapping for ransom. When Coors resisted, Corbett shot him with a handgun. Then he moved the body, set demands anyway, and ran. The body turned up months later. September 1965, a passerby in a remote area near Castle Rock, Colorado, found human remains in a shallow grave. Dental records identified Coors. He had been shot in the back, and the burial site fit a hurried disposal. The case crossed borders after that. In October 1966, police in Vancouver picked him up after a tip, and a traffic stop tied him to the wanted man in the Coors case. At trial, prosecutors built the case on physical evidence, witness identification, ransom notes, typewriter links, and Corbett's movements before and after the crime. In 1967, he was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life. The matter was settled there. One crack came from the burial site. Coors was found relatively close to where he vanished. That mismatch kept scraping at the back of the case. Another crack sat in the exact sequence at the gate. Some reports implied a kidnapping gone bad. Others leaned toward murder during the first contact. The evidence allowed both. If Coors died almost immediately, the ransom demand looked less like plan than improvisation. Then there were the sightings and preparations. Corbett had allegedly scouted the area and learned Coors' route, but parts of that reconstruction came later, after the suspect was known. Corbett always denied being Matilda. He admitted plenty around the edges, then pulled away from the center. In prison interviews, he shifted, withheld, and contradicted himself. Investigators never proved an accomplice, but the possibility never fully left the room. Coors may have recognized the man at the gate, or recognized the setup fast enough to resist before any clean abduction could happen. That would explain the violence, the rushed killing, and the sloppy split between kidnapping script and murder reality. Then escaped from a work release program in 1978 by walking away in broad daylight. He lived free for years before authorities found him again in 1984 in Salem, Oregon. Even then, the case kept its missing pieces.